So hi, I'm Helen, and I'll speak in English first and then in Mandarin. 大家好，我是 Helen。我今天会介绍AC 法庭自由。我先说英文，大概5分钟，然后再重复一遍普通话或者是国语。Okay, I'll start now. So the ability to independently access the legal system is a challenge for ordinary British Columbians. More and more people are trying to resolve legal matters on their own. However, most are unfamiliar with how to properly prepare legal forms or prepare for a hearing. So Amy Corey Friendship Society, we call it AC from now on. AC will provide legal assistance to individuals who require help drafting or filling out legal forms. AC services are provided on the principle of equal access to justice. This means going beyond the application of a simple financial eligibility test. Equal access to justice includes an assessment of the individual's capacity to navigate what has become a complex and inaccessible legal system for many British Columbians. And this principle of equal access to justice has become even more relevant as we all deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. AC is a non-profit charity offering confidential workshops that helps the public complete the legal forms necessary to present a matter to court or a tribunal. It is powered by paralegals, newly called lawyers, legal school students, law librarians, and law accountants. It's supervised by lawyers and supported by the profession. No legal advice is given on anything other than completing legal forms. 所以 AC 是拉丁文，意思就是法庭的朋友。对于很多 BC 省人，去法院诉讼不是一件很容易的事，对于一些人甚至是有点可怕，因为不同的因素，越来越多的人会尝试去法庭自我代表，但是很多人都不知道从哪里开始，去哪一个法院填哪一份表格，怎么填，去哪里交哪些表格，然后之后的过程是怎么样，上庭要做什么准备和规矩都弄不清楚。AC 对于自我代表的省民提供了法律有关的帮助。我们的服务包括帮助填写表格。今天主要就是说如何准备线上出庭。因为法庭自由相信司法公平的原则，不论自我代表人收入多少，法庭自由都会帮助他们了解复杂的法院体系、法院的程序，包括法院体系中各个部门接收案件所必须使用的表格。现在因为肺炎疫情，司法公平的原则更加显得重要。疫情时，很多人无法出外去寻求帮助。法庭自由是一个非牟利的慈善机构，成员包括了律师助理、律师、法律系的学生、图书馆的管理员，还有会计师。法庭自由每次的workshop 都有当值的律师，但是我们主要是要帮助自我代表去填写那些规定的表格，理解复杂法院的规矩，还有其他审裁委员会与好像 CLT 或者是特别审裁 听哪些 Human Rights Tribunal 啊、Employment Standard Tribunals 等等不同的委员会。Can you see the third screen? So we would like to acknowledge we are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Talley-Worship Nations. 我们承认我们位于 Musqueam, Squamish 和 Talley-Worship 民族的传统、祖传和每个样的领土上。
Thank you, Helen. Thank you for that. So my name is Courtney. So I will be presenting alongside Amy, who will be translating with me. And tonight we are here to talk to you about how to prepare for a virtual court or tribunal appearance. Virtual appearances, while the courts and tribunals are trying to monitor the pandemic and how things continue to progress, it seems that virtual appearances are here to stay. So with that in mind, today is kind of a how to appear 101 and how to make sure to calm any kind of anxieties that you might have for a virtual appearance coming up. We will have a Q&A at the end, but if you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we will also have a period between 7 and 7:30 where we can move you into breakout rooms to help you with legal forms as well. And Amy, I know I just threw a lot at you, but let me know if you need to repeat anything.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Hello, 大家好，我名字叫 Amy， 今天我会帮忙翻译 Courtney 说的话到国语。所以今天我们要讨论的内容是如何在网络上参加法庭或者是审裁的出庭做准备。到时候在最后我们会有一个提供时间让你们问一些问题，然后我们可以帮您就是做一些服务，比如说要是你希望今天到我们 Amici Curiae AC 的空间来帮忙填一些法庭上的表格，我们可以帮您安排一些时间来约个时间，能够得到我们的服务。
Thank you, Amy. If any of you need me to repeat anything as well, because I do speak quite fast and I know Amy's going to be trying to keep up with me, just let me know. So first up, we're going to talk about what should I wear and how should I set up my space. So on the right hand side there, business casual, we've got a couple of examples of that. There's no need to go out and buy a suit if you don't have one. You know, business casual from your closet. If you don't have anything that qualifies as business casual, but you have a friend or a family member which is a similar size to you, maybe see if they can borrow or if they can lend you a couple of items of clothing. So business casual, no hats. If you do wear a hat, you will be asked to remove it, so try not to wear a hat. Shorts. I know that most of the time on screen when we're in the Zoom world for virtual appearances, you can't see what we're wearing from the waist down, but do try to keep that in mind. Make sure that you're prepared in case you have to, you know, stand up and you're still on camera. Sweatpants and no hoodies if you can. Showing respect for the court or tribunal and making a good impression, that kind of ties into why we dress the way that we do. You want to show them that you are there to, you know, be respectful of them and they will be respectful of you. We'll get into more respectful practices a little bit later on as well, but that is kind of a quick overview of what you should wear. Moving on to setting up space. And Amy, I'll let you translate quickly, sorry.
Okay, sure. 所以我们第一个要讨论的就是参加网络上的审裁跟会庭的时候该穿什么。第一个就是尽量穿一些商业正式的穿着。要是您今天没有商业正式的穿着的话，没有必要为这个法庭审裁去买，而你可以尽量跟朋友借，或者是看有没有身边的家人可以借一份给你。最重要的是不要穿帽子，不要穿短裤。虽然是在网络上的那个会庭，但是你也不知道你会可能突然要站起来拿东西，或者是突然要站起来，你也不想要显示说你穿的是短裤。尽量，然后要是你穿的是帽子的话，法官会要求你把帽子拿下。然后这个最主要是要来显示说你对法庭的尊重跟留下一个好的印象，然后他们这样子对您的形式也会相关的。
So how should I set up my space? This will be a two-parter here. So starting number one, clean and clear clutter-free background. Oh, that was a mouthful. Check your background and remove any blur filters. Cat filters as well. I'm sure that we've seen that video rolling around. Making sure that you've just got a simple background behind you like I do here and like most of us do on the Zoom right now. Space with privacy. So try not to use your computer in a public space. Try not to, join from a Starbucks, somewhere safe, secure, quiet, not out on Granville Street where there's lots of background noise. Somewhere that you can really sit, focus, and there won't be any kind of interruptions. Well-lit face. So making sure that, you have a light or a lamp on. If you are in a room with a window, this is frosted glass, so I am not doing what I'm about to say is a no. Do not face with the window behind you. That will make your video quite dark. So if you are in a room with a window, try to face the window.
所以今天你如何要设置您的空间，尽量要有一个干净不杂乱的背景。就比如说你在 Zoom 上面的话，背景不要用那个模糊的那个效果，也不要用一些就是效果会改变你人的外表。然后尽量找一个隐私的空间，不要在图书馆或者是咖啡厅，或者是户外，或者在一个很吵闹的地方来参加这个会庭，因为这样会让您分心，而且会让法庭上的其他的人也会分心。然后尽量脸部不要背对的窗户，因为这样要是你背对的窗户的话，光线会显示你的脸跟人变得很黑暗，然后其他人会看不见您的表情。所以尽量面对着窗户，或者是旁边开个灯，或者是调整一下你的光线。
So part two of setting up your space, show your shoulders. So don't have the screen like this where I'm almost falling away from the screen. Try to show your shoulders, and from here up, try not to cut off your face either. Make sure you got your full face in there. Make sure you check how you look on camera. So there is a preview function before you join most Zoom or Teams meetings. Try to take advantage of that. Keep your video on. Look at the judge or adjudicator when you speak. And make eye contact with the camera. I myself am quite bad with this. I have a tendency to look at the screen itself or kind of veer away. But we will get into a little bit later on, if you don't feel comfortable looking at the camera, what you can say. No distractions. Remember to put your phone on silent. Turn off notifications. If you have a few tabs open on your computer, maybe you have your email going at the same time. Try to make sure that that volume is on silent so you're not getting notifications during your hearing.
所以其他的一些建议，我们想要提供就是第一个就是让人家能够看到您的肩膀，所以比如说不要把您的那个视频开得太高或者太低，就是让大家能够看到你的脸跟你的肩膀。第二个是保持您的头像机是开启，就是尽量说不要用手机或者是会突然移动的东西，尽量用电脑或者是可以固定的，这样人家可以看你不会突然就是有事情发生，然后不清楚，然后尽量说话看着法官，然后看着你的相机，这样人家可以看得到你的眼睛。其他就是旁边不要放一些会让你分心的东西，所以比如说手机的话，记得关静音。你要是用电脑的话，记得比如说您的 email 信箱，要是收到信会出声音的话，把这个通知的声音关静音，或者是背景的一些音乐或者相关的一些通知的一些声音，都把它先就暂时关起。
Other reminders, using an appropriate screen name. So you can see mine, it's got my first name and my last initial. So first name, last name is a pretty good one. Pronouns, you will have to introduce your pronouns if you're appearing at provincial or Supreme Court. So having those in your screen name as well is quite helpful. So an example that we have there, we have Alex Lee, and then for the pronouns, we have he and they. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, using the preview function to see what you look like on camera before actually joining the call itself. So you can make any kind of adjustments to your camera angle, or your setup itself as well.
记得参加您的会庭之前，把你的荧幕上的名称改成您的名字、姓跟代名词。所以我们这边有一个，比如说就 Alex Lee， 然后他的代名词是 he 跟 they。今天你要是用的是 she 或 her 的话，都可以就是相关的改。然后你可以进入网上的会议之前，使用语浪的功能来看一下您的名称就是清不清楚，然后是不是有改正确，再参加那个会议。
So if you are not comfortable looking at the camera for any reason, say that at the start of your session while introducing yourself. It circles back to respect for the court. When you are in the court physically, there is an expectation generally that you will maintain eye contact with who you are speaking to. So the same kind of translates to these virtual appearances as well. So if you are unable to do that, you can start off with, Your Honor, I would like you to know that I may look away from the camera. And then we've got a couple of checkbox options in there, because I may need to read my notes. So if you have notes on your screen or down beside you, that's an option there. Or because it feels awkward, or because of a customary or cultural practice, a disability, medical condition, or personal trauma you suffered, it feels uncomfortable. I do not mean this as disrespect. That's important to note right there. I believe I can address the court more helpfully if I am allowed to look away from the camera occasionally. If you include that, all courts and tribunals are really going to appreciate that and look well upon that.
如果您因为任何原因对看着镜头感到不自在，你可以在介绍的时候跟法庭跟法官说一声，因为在网络上的会议跟在现场的会议，他们的要求是一样，就是希望说您在跟法庭说话时是看着相机、看着镜头看，因为他们觉得这是一种尊敬。那要是你因为某某原因，这对你来说是一种困扰，你可以跟他说，就阁下，我想让您知道，我可能不会一直看着相机镜头，然后我们在这个解释上面有写了一些 你可以说的原因，就比如说，因为我可能会需要读我的笔记，或许因为感觉尴尬，或者因为习惯、文化、习俗，或者是一些创伤或者残障的或健康问题，让我觉得不自在。然后就更要强调着说，跟法官说，我并不是不尊重。我相信，如果允许我偶尔将视线从镜头上移开，我会更有效的在法庭上发言。然后每一个法官跟法庭都会接受您的这个通知。
And sorry, just before we move on to the next slide, I'm throwing a loophole for you, Amy, because it's not translated already. The one thing that I have found helpful if you are, if you think that you are going to struggle with remembering to look at the camera or remembering to look in that general direction, one thing I tell a lot of my clients in preparation is have a sticky note next to it. In some bright neon, can't miss it type of color, it sounds very strange and it sounds a little outrageous, but it makes it a lot easier to focus and fixate on. See, Dom has one that he's holding up right there. It makes it a lot easier to remember that is where you should be looking. So if that's something that you might find helpful, I really recommend it.
所以 Courtney 刚刚加的是一个建议，就是说，要是你觉得你今天会经常忘记看那个镜头的话，他的习惯是你可以贴一个比较亮的贴纸，所以他刚才说你可以贴一个就是颜色比较亮的贴纸在你的相机镜头旁边，这样可以提醒你偶尔记得说话时看一下您的镜头。
Thanks, Amy. Threw you for a little loop. Moving on to what should I call the judge and other participants? Now, this one is provincial court specific. Some of these do translate over to the Supreme Court as well. But general rule of thumb is if you are unsure, feel free to ask. It doesn't hurt to clarify at the beginning. This is my first time appearing before the provincial court or my first time appearing before the BC Human Rights Tribunal. And I just want to make sure that I address you respectfully. So what is your preferred title? So anything along those lines is really helpful if you're unsure. So for example, in the provincial court, judges are called Your Honor. Generally, they wear black robes. I say generally because sometimes we forget in this era of virtual. Justices of the peace are called Your Worship. They are someone that we don't come across very often, but they are called Your Worship. They wear robes as well. Other people in the session may include lawyers, court staff, or witnesses. If you have ever sat in a courtroom before, and pre-pandemic, it was very likely, but right now, probably not. But if you've ever sat in a courtroom, you might have heard the reference, my friend. Quite often, lawyers will refer to each other as my friend. That is a practice thing between lawyers and a sign of respect for a lawyer to refer to another lawyer as my friend. So it doesn't mean they're best buddies. I mean, they could be. They could hang out outside of the courtroom. But that is also just another respectful address and something that can be expected in the courtroom.
我们现在说的这些建议都是关于省级法院，所以有可能在最高法院的话会稍微有一些变化，但是在省级法院的时候呢，你可以称呼法官叫做 Your Honor，他们通常会穿黑色的袍，但是因为现在在 COVID-19 新冠肺炎的，就是现实当中，有的时候会漏掉，会忘记，那是正常的。然后 Justice of the Peace 的话叫做 Your Worship，他们穿的也是袍子。 然后其他会在现场出现的也许是一些其他的，包括律师、法院工作人员跟见证人。然后有的时候律师跟律师之间会互相称呼 my friend， 就我的朋友。这在律师对律师的称呼当中是算是一种尊敬，所以这是正常的，不代表他们是不是真正的朋友，而是说是一种习惯。哦，不好意思，忘了加一点。Sorry, Courtney, I missed the point.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
忘了加一点，就是万一今天是你第一次去法庭，然后你不知道该怎么称呼对方的话，你可以就是直接提供说这是我第一次来法庭，我怕就是称呼错，麻烦您跟我说一下怎么的称呼你，或者是 What is your title？ 然后他们通常会直接跟你说，你可以叫我Your Honor 或者是 Your Worship。
Perfect.
Thanks.
So how should you introduce yourself? So you have to tell the judge your name, title, and pronouns in provincial, supreme, and the Court of Appeal. Tribunals, it is generally the same practice. You will have to tell them your name and title, and most have adopted the pronouns structure as well. So for example, hello, Your Honor, I am Miss, Mr, or MX for they, them. Wong, first initial A, last name spelled W-O-N-G. That's to make sure that they get it correct on the record. My pronouns are she, her, he, him, they, them, whichever you identify with. And I am the applicant, respondent, claimant, defendant, plaintiff, whichever you are. The introductions are mainly number one, to make sure that the court reporter gets everything down correct and they know who's speaking. And number two, to make sure that the court knows what they should be calling you and what pronouns that you identify as for reference as well.
所以今天你要是去法庭的时候呢，该如何自我介绍？第一个是一定要告诉法官您的名字、称呼跟代名词。比如说，今天我们现在写的是阁下，我是汪先生或小姐，名字首字母是 A， 然后姓的拼法是 W-O-N-G， 我的代名词是他或者他，就英文翻成就 she her 或者是 they them。然后你要必须让他们知道说您今天为什么会来，所以我是申请人或者是被告人或者是案配人，然后他们需要你这么的介绍的原因是因为第一个法庭上的记录人员必须知道说谁在说话，然后第二个这样法庭才知道说您是谁，然后您是来代表谁。
Am I allowed to bring a support person? So for tribunals and the provincial courts, support persons are almost always permitted without permission. Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, you should seek permission beforehand for a support person to come with you. A support person can take notes, organize documents, and provide emotional support. Witnesses cannot be your support person. That's important to remember. And a support person is not allowed to speak. So they are there to simply provide you support, whether that be emotional, written support if they're writing down notes for you because you cannot, helping you organize your documents, or simply just sitting in. They are not allowed to speak, but they're allowed to be with you for support.
所以你们今天可能我们要回答这个问题，就是我可以带一位帮助我或者是支援我的人吗？要是在省级法院的话呢，你不需要法庭的允许就可以带一个支援你的人，但是今天你要是在最高法院的话，你必须要事先得到允许才行。然后一个支援人员可以帮您做笔记，或者是整理文件，或者是提供一些精神上的支持。 但是要注意最重要的一点是，您的见证人不可以同时当您的支持人员，然后您的支持人员是不可以在法庭上说话的或发言。
So managing stress, nerves, frustration, or anxiety. This presentation is obviously designed to help you with managing that, but it's not always avoidable. So what happens if you do run into a little bit of frustration, anxiety in your appearance itself? If you feel flustered or frustrated during your session, you can tell the judge, Your Honor, and this you can use some variation of this, but it's important to quote that you respectfully remind you of Pintea v. Johns, where the Supreme Court of Canada supports the Canadian Judicial Council principles on self-represented litigants and accused persons. I respect that you must be neutral in my case, but I ask that your court follow the principles that guide me in my case. These principles were designed with in mind self-represented litigants and helping them access justice in a fair and impartial way. So the Supreme Court of Canada upheld those principles. So it's important to remind the judge of those if you're managing any kind of stress, frustration, or anxiety. Another thing you can do is you can also politely ask the court or adjudicator, if you're appearing at a tribunal, to take a recess for a few minutes. Take a few minutes for a walk. Grab a glass of water. Do some breathing exercises. We'll get into a few of those calming exercises a little bit later on. But it is okay to ask for a break. That is something that you should feel okay doing, especially if you feel that you need it.
所以今天参加法庭的时候呢，哪怕你做了多少的准备，偶尔还是会，感觉到一些压力、紧张、挫折或者是焦虑的感觉，这是一个很正常会发生的事情。那如果你今天在会议期间感觉到心慌或者挫折，你可以告诉法官，阁下，我想要恭敬地向您提起 Pintea and Johns。在这个案子里，加拿大最高法院支持加拿大司法委员会关于自我辩护诉讼人和被告人的原则。我尊重您在我的案件中必须保持中立，但我希望您的法院可以遵循这些原则来执遵我处理我的案件。所以法官加拿大最高法官有说，就是法官必须要是看到是自我辩护诉讼人的话呢，可以提供一些帮忙但是还是保持中立，但是可以提供一些帮忙。要是你实在感觉的压力太大的话呢，你也可以礼貌上跟法官要求提供一些休息时间，然后你可以利用这个休息时间稍微站起来走一走放松呼吸，然后松口气或者喝水。
So just continuing on managing nerves, frustration, or anxiety. If you have childcare responsibilities and are unable to secure childcare, your babysitter quit last minute, your kids were sent home from daycare. It happens, life happens. But if that is going to affect your appearance, so your kids are home, they might interrupt, you should tell the court right away. So an example we have here, Your Honor, I was not able to secure childcare today, so I have my child in the room with me right now. I may have to ask for a short recess or two during the hearing if, for example, you have to feed your baby, if your baby wakes up, if your toddler is banging at the door, and you apologize for any inconvenience this might cause. You hope that the court can accommodate you today. But if you do need to seek an adjournment, please feel free to do so. Like I said, life happens. The court may seem very scary, but they know that life happens as well. So if it's something that's going to significantly impede your ability to appear that day, see if they will be able to give you an adjournment. It might not be guaranteed, but it's worth trying.
今天要是您有托儿责任的话，然后并且你无法获得托儿服的话，你必须立刻告诉法庭，尤其是要是小孩在家，然后你是在家里参加这个网络上的会议，然后你可以跟法官说，法官大人，我今天无法获得托儿服务，所以我现在让我的孩子在房间里。然后，如果比如说今天你小孩饿了，你必须喂他，或者是你小孩心情不好在吵在闹，或者是生病了，你就可以提供这个事情跟法官说，然后让他们知道说你可能需要在会议庭当中要求一些短暂的休息时间。或许要是真的实在不行的话，你可能可以跟法庭要求延长你的这个会议，然后就是跟他们就是提供，就是跟他们说能不能延长到一个你可以找到托儿那个服务的时候来进行这个会议，然后他们不一定会符合你的要求，但是是值得提的。
And if your childcare responsibilities make it difficult to attend your hearing, I touched on this on the last slide. I got ahead of myself. Request a delay to another day when you will have childcare. So there's an example of how to request that. One thing I should note as well is if you find out in advance that you aren't going to have childcare that day, giving the court or tribunal advance notice is even better. So, reaching out to the other side if they will agree to an adjournment, reaching out to the tribunal member in the case of, a mediation or a hearing or anything like that with the tribunal, to let them know that you might need an adjournment. The more notice that you give the court and other parties, the better. Like I said, obviously life happens and sometimes we only know the morning of. But if you do know in advance, please try to give everyone advance notice that you might need an adjournment.
所以这是我们刚刚讨论过的，就是万一你有托儿责任，但是你实在找不到托儿服务，或者是有紧急的事情发生的话，你可以要求法官延长或者延迟到另一天进行这个听证会。最好的建议是你越早知道，然后越早跟法庭说，或者是跟对方说的话，然后看能不能巧一个新的日期来进行这个听证会，是最好的步骤来能够得到一个延长的听证会。你给他们最长的时间就是最快的，提供这件事情跟他们说的话，他们通常会比较容易的答应。但是一样的就是，至于你是参加哪一种听证会的类型的话，不一定会有那个允许您延长。
So managing stress, nerves, frustration, or anxiety 3.0. If you have a disability that will require courtesies during your appearance, you can tell the court by saying, and here's a brief example as well. Your Honor, I have a disability and would appreciate any accommodations you can give me. Specifically, I experience and then describe your disability. So for example, we have blindness, hearing problems, reading problems, learning disabilities, mobility issues. You might, maybe you have diabetes and you need to suck on a candy while you're in the appearance. Letting the court know what your disability is, and then it would help me if the court could, and then let them know what accommodations you need. Speaking slowly. I am personally someone that speaks 1,000 words a minute. So I know how helpful speaking slowly can be if that's something that you need. Allowing you to take a short recess, allowing you extra time to read your documents, and allowing a disability aid to attend your hearing, similar to a support person's. And then obviously thanking the court. This is something that you should let the court know at the outset during your introduction so that they can ensure those accommodations are granted from the beginning.
如果你有残障或者在出庭时需要特别的协助，你可以告诉法庭，然后尽量是在法庭开始的时候跟他们说，就法官大人，我有残障，如果您能给我提供任何的特别的协助，我会非常感激。具体来说，我有，然后你可以描述您的特殊的状况，比如说你听力有问题，或者是行动不方便等等，然后再跟他们要求，如果法庭能够，然后描述你需要的协助，比如说说话说慢一点，或者允许我短暂休息，或者是允许我有另外时间来读任何文件等等的话，那将对我有所帮助。然后谢谢您。
If you are a victim of gendered violence, the court can help you feel safer during your session. There's some options that you can consider. Telling the court, Your Honor, I'm a victim of gendered violence. I'm feeling unsafe. I would appreciate any help you might give me. I should mention these are all very court specific, but they do apply to tribunals as well. If the hearing is in person, I know this is specifically tiered towards virtual appearances, but if you do have an in-person hearing, you can let the sheriff or the case manager know that you are a victim of gendered violence so they can help you arrange a safer space. Again, that's something that is helpful to let them know at the outset so they can make those accommodations accordingly. But you know, safety is something that is ever evolving, especially as court appearances go on. So if at any point you are not feeling safe during your appearance or at a court or a tribunal, let them know, okay?
所以今天要是您如果是性别暴力的受害者，法庭可以帮助您在庭审期间感到更安全。然后你可以考虑以下的一些选项，你可以告诉法庭说：法官大人，我是性别暴力的受害者，我感到不安全。如果您能给我任何帮助，我会非常感激。然后这是比较适合现场的，就不是网络上的法庭，但是你可以让治安官或者案件管理员知道您是性别暴力的受害者，然后这样他们就可以安排一个更安全的空间。
So how can you mentally prepare? I touched on a few techniques earlier, but you know, getting plenty of rest the night before, making sure you're getting a full sleep. Do something relaxing before your appearance. Yoga, breathing techniques, which would fall under grounding techniques that I have below there. You know, reading your favorite book, taking a walk. There's all sorts of things that, you know, everyone finds relaxing. So doing one of those before your appearance. Preparing beforehand. So try to have everything that you will need. So whether that be, you know, your trial binders, a folder with all the documents that you might need, making sure that everything is prepared. Usually I say a week beforehand, but at least a few days beforehand. So you have enough time to review it and feel comfortable. Grounding techniques, like I mentioned, breathing exercises, you know, yoga, meditation, all sorts of things like that. Keeping an item that comforts you nearby. This is also something that that I tend to recommend to my clients when they're appearing virtually. The great thing about virtual appearances right now is when I'm seated like this, you have no idea what's in the rest of my room. So if you need to have a picture of your family, your pet, someone that you love and that makes you feel safe and comfortable on the screen behind your camera, do that. If you have a favorite or lucky pair of fuzzy slippers, wear them. If you love crystals, I'm a crystal person, and you have a favorite crystal that'll make you feel safe and feel grounded, have that next to you. That is the beauty of virtual appearances right now, is, you know, obviously make sure that your space is that what is visible is clear and clutter free. But aside from that, you can have comforting items nearby, and nobody else will be any of the wiser.
所以如何做好心理准备？第一个就是很重要，就是事前有足够的休息，就记得前一天，就是早一点睡觉，这样你第二天不会就是参加会庭的时候不会感觉累或者是分心。然后在你出庭之前做一些放松的事情，比如说瑜伽，或者是呼吸，或看一本你喜欢的书。或者是走一走路，让你放松。然后记得参加会庭之前做足够的准备。我们是建议你前几天或者是1个礼拜前就把你会需要用的文件都整理好，放在一个文件夹里面。然后你的空间跟你需要的一些就是电脑啊或什么都先准备好。然后利用一些让自己安心的技巧。就像刚刚之前提到的，就是做一些会让你感觉放松的一些运动啊，或者是看看书啊，或者是呼吸。然后，因为我们现在是透过网络上的进行这些会庭，法官跟其他参加的人员看不到您房间里的一些东西，所以你可以在旁边放一些会让你看得安心的东西，像说，你家庭的照片啊，或者是你宠物的照片，可能有某一些像 Courtney 提供的他说的是他很喜欢水晶，所以他旁边一定会放一些会让他看到安心的水晶。那如果你有一个相关项会让你看到，或者是在你旁边会让你感觉到放松跟安心的话，就可以放在你们的空间的旁边。
Sorry for the mouthful, Amy. So we do have some time for Q&A and to break out into breakout rooms. But before we do, I am going to pass it back to Charlene, who does have an announcement to give, and then we will move on to that.
Great. Thank you so much, Courtney and Amy. And thank you everyone for attending. Just a really short announcement. So we have a similar presentation on family law on March 29th. So the title is I Want to Divorce, My Legal Options in BC. So I'm just going to copy and paste the information for that in the chat, so you know where it is and where to sign up online. And I'll say that in Mandarin. 所以感谢大家今天来我们这个讲座。然后呢，我们在3月29号有另外一个讲座是相关家庭法的。然后我现在在这个聊天室里面已经放了这个我们下一个家庭法的讲座的资料。如果你要参加的话，可以本人去在那个 Richmond， 或者是你在他那边的一个连结，你可以点进去，然后就可以那时候可以参加。谢谢。Thanks, Courtney. Hand it back to you.
No worries. And I am going to pivot it over to Andrew as well, who has a VPL announcement.
Yeah, so thanks to everyone for coming, first of all, and thanks again to everyone over at Michikurai for the presentation and for all the wonderful work you do in the community. So a couple of resources I'm going to share real quick. The first here is the BPL feedback forum. We're a public organization, we're a community-led library, so all the feedback we can get on these programs, especially in this new virtual space, is very much appreciated. Another thing I'm going to spotlight really quickly is a great resource we have, which is our BPL Community Resources and Social Services Guide. So this guide has links to a lot of social services, including Michikurai, and community resources. If you're having any trouble, these are social, housing, a wide variety. People are often surprised by what social services are available and what they qualify for. So we'd really encourage you to follow the links on that guide. And just as I search my desktop, yeah, finally we have an event on Saturday, excuse me, on Saturday, this Saturday, February 12th, from 1 to 2:30 p.m. And it's done in partnership with Family Services of Greater Vancouver. It's on goal setting and budgeting, and it will be delivered in Cantonese. So if you or someone you know could use some financial information on goal setting and budgeting and stuff like that, that'll be on Saturday. Also, Family Services of Greater Vancouver also offers one-on-one financial coaching and advice, and that's for free. So that's it for the VPL. As mentioned, we'll be the Amici Kurai folks will be signing people up for appointments if you want in breakout rooms. So I'll pass it back to them. Thank you all for coming, and have a good night.